do it. Good morning. This is Vegas Law Talk. Your host is Leslie Stovall. It's nice to see you this morning. Today I have the pleasure of having Bill Paulos join me. Mr. Paulos is a well-known casino operator and owner, and also a UNLV alumni who is involved in a new aspect of student athletics, which is NIL, name, image, and likeness opportunities for student athletes. Mr. Paulos, how are you doing this morning?
I'm just great, Les. How are you?
Well, I'm doing very well, and I thank you very much for coming on the show and helping our audience understand what UNLV is doing with the NIL issues or opportunities for student athletes. Mr. Paulos, before we go on,
Please call me Bill.
be glad to. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. Bill, you're a UNLV alumni yourself.
I am. As a matter of fact, I graduated in the first class of the hospitality school. I got out here in 1967, and when it was Nevada Southern University.
Yes, it was.
And I graduated in 1969 when they changed the name to UNLV.
That's right. You know, I remember this area out here. There wasn't a thing around it.
No, there was me and 6,000 other students. That was it.
Yeah, I think the first time I took classes out here was in '71 when I was stationed up at Nellis Air Base, and then I came back after my service and finished up my undergraduate.
For any students out there who live in Tonopah Hall, I was the first resident in Tonopah Hall.
Were you?
That was the first facility built on campus. So I hope it's still together. I'm sure it is.
Well, you know, the wonderful thing is the university has really developed over the years and has become an outstanding academic institution, in large part to the contribution of alumni like yourself. And you know, your involvement, I think, has been wonderful here at UNLV.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. There's a tremendous amount of folks in the community that really support UNLV and continue to support UNLV, and you're correct. UNLV is a great institution. If you're going to have a great city, you have to have a great institution.
You know, that's true, and education is a building block for a community, and it's also something that a good education and university provides industry and business with the resources they need to be able to be successful, and it's wonderful that this community is beginning to really recognize that, although I think in primary and secondary education there needs to be more money put into that system.
100%, and unfortunately sometimes we get lumped into the Clark County School District,
Right.
and that's unfair for UNLV, and we really need to help Clark County School District. There's no question about that.
Your education at UNLV really took you to the heights of the gaming industry. You went from UNLV to managing casinos.
I did.
Tell the audience some of the casinos that you operated.
Well, I was very fortunate. I graduated in '69, and I worked. My first job was in Mobile, Alabama. You know, you had a New York City kid from Las Vegas to Mobile, Alabama. It was culture shock for all of us. But came back to Las Vegas, and fortunate in 1980, I was hired by Bill Bennett, one of the great pioneers of the city, and as their director of hotel operations. And from there, again, I was fortunate. He threw me a set of keys and said, I just bought a little casino called the Silver City across the street. He says, learn the casino business. So we did that, and by 1983, I was in Laughlin. We had just bought the Edgewater,
Right.
and I then became the fellow who grew and expanded the company. I built all our facilities and operated them for the next 14 years. So I was fortunate. I built the Colorado Bell down there, expanded the Edgewater, built the Excalibur, built the Luxor, built the Adventure Dome. So
Right.
I was very fortunate.
Those are all very interesting projects. You went on, though, to eventually develop and operate your own casino operations.
Yes, in 1996, after I got back from Australia, me and Bill Wortman, my partner, who is a native Las Vegan also, he came and we said, you know, we've made a lot of money for a lot of other people. Let's see if we can do it for ourselves.
And what did you guys do?
Well, we took over the state had us take over the Rampart up on Rampart Boulevard, and we operated that for over 10 years, and then at the same time we helped develop, got the license for, and helped develop the Greektown Casino in Detroit, Michigan.
Right.
And then from there, we developed our own casinos. We developed the Cannery in North Las Vegas. Then we went out to Pennsylvania and bought a racetrack of all things, and developed one of the largest racinos in the country.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were called the Meadows.
Mm-hmm.
And then we came back and developed the Cannery on Boulder Highway. We made it through the lean years. And then we sold our Pennsylvania property to Penn, and Boyd bought our local properties.
Those local properties include the Cannery, both on Boulder Highway, and the one up in North Las Vegas on Craig Road.
Craig Road, right?
Yeah, that's really an active local spot.
Oh, it's a great place, and the manager there now is sensational. His name is Ryan Paulos.
Oh, a relation.
My number 2 son.
Oh. Well, I'm sure he takes after his dad.
Well, he's much smarter.
Well, that's wonderful. Now, what brought you to UNLV Athletics and your involvement in UNLV Athletics?
Well, I came here in the heyday when we just had basketball. Right. Okay, and we were in the convention center.
I remember the old convention center looked like a spaceship.
100%. Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Yeah.
And I was in a fraternity, so we went to all the sporting events. That was what we did.
Right.
And so basketball became, and basketball was a sport that I could never master. I was short, I was tiny, and it was not good at all. I was a baseball player. So I enjoyed it, really got into it, followed it very closely until I graduated, and then left and came back and had a career for a while. And then back in the early 80s, got involved, and you know, donated to the foundation and donated to athletics what I could.
That's the Rebel Athletic Foundation.
Yes, the Rebel Athletic Foundation.
RAF.
Right, RAF.
Right.
And we kept on going, and around 95, 96, that's when I really got involved in the day-to-day athletics of basketball, and been doing that ever since. Spent a lot of time with the guys and the coaches and the like, and the administrators. And in 2013, we formalized a foundation called the Running Rebel Club. And there was a few of us, me, Ted Quirk, Tom Gingoli, a few other guys. And it was to specifically raise $400,000 or $500,000 a year to enhance the budget for basketball, because it was decimated by those lean years.
Right. And you were successful with that.
We were successful at it. We really were. We got the Mendenhall Center built, which was great. And that was actually started by Lon Kruger, who got me involved and my partner, and the Mendenhalls, and then it kept going from there.
Then we have the Supreme Court case in NCAA versus Alston in 2021.
Yes, indeed.
Came out of the Ninth Circuit. Supreme Court affirmed a finding that the NCAA was violating the Sherman Act or the Antitrust Act by limiting certain aspects of income opportunities for student athletes, correct?
Correct.
And that led you then to do what?
Then we had to figure out what's the best use of the funds, because now you cannot pay an athlete to play. You can't entice an athlete to come here with a contract for personal services. However, that's unfortunately, the rules are so vague and so incomplete that you can read story after story after story about how that is actually happening.
And in
today.
fact, that's before the National Labor Relations Board at this point.
Yes.
As I understand it, that very issue of whether or not they're employees or not, and whether or not they're entitled to some compensation
Right.
for being a student athlete.
Right.
And that hasn't been decided yet.
No, and the NC2A, about 2 years ago, were trying to throw all of this to Congress for Congress to make the rules.
Right.
And now Congress has difficulty enough agreeing what to have for breakfast.
Right.
So making rules up for the NC2A wasn't going to happen.
And the precise issue is this idea that name and image and likeness belongs to the student athlete, has some value, they can be compensated for it. What is UNLV doing with regards to that issue? How are they handling that issue?
Well, what they're doing is I'm very proud of our new athletic director. Okay, and Harp is a great guy and is on top of it. And then we have, and I've got to read. I call him Nep, and his name is Eric Nepomuceno. Okay, and he's director of compliance. He's an associate AD, director of compliance, and he is phenomenal. He's on the committee for the state to make the rules for name, image, and likeness for Nevada.
And they're trying to comply with what the NCAA is trying to do, which is problematic in and of itself, right?
Exactly, and again, you have 5 basic premises that the NCAA came out with, and one is it's not pay for play.
Correct.
Number 2 is that you can't entice with recruitment. Okay,
Right.
Agents are allowed. So now a college athlete can have an agent. However, that agent cannot profess that if I'm your agent in college, I have to be your agent for the pros. Okay, so he can't do that. Schools cannot be involved in any way, shape, or form. So allegedly, a coach can't sit with a student athlete and say, if you come to UNLV, I know I can get you $80,000 in NIL money. That's a no-no. However, 1 month, last August, okay, the coach of Alabama, we all know him, okay?
Yeah, I've heard about it.
Yeah. One of the first things he said was, my quarterback's going to make $1 million
Yeah. On
Okay.
NIL.
on NIL. So that's the problem that are going right.
And the regulations across the country are different, they're diverse, they're not uniform, and the NCAA hasn't really helped that situation.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Every state has different rules. Every state, so they need to come together and make rules that make sense.
Now, how does, if a student athlete has this interest in NIL, how does that get negotiated, or how does the student monetize that?
Let me tell you what we do. Okay, and that's basketball. We've started an organization, first an umbrella organization called UNILV. We'll be putting up a website by the end of the month where everybody will be able to go look, see the athletes. If they want to hire an athlete for promotional purposes or anything else, they'll be able to choose the athlete, and it goes through a third party to make sure everything is according to NCAA rules.
Okay.
And that third party for us is called Blueprint Sports.
Okay.
Blueprint Sports is backed by the Agassi Foundation.
Oh, okay.